Good morning, Anari. Today I'll be talking about different types of information design with links to the visual hierarchy and different design elements. Today I wanted to go through the theme of using different types of infographics, prints, and environmental information design with the theme of Nando's, as I thought Nando's was more relevant to who I am because I'm Portuguese, South African, so it just makes sense. So as you can see, even by the design of my presentation slides. So firstly, we'll be discussing the infographic that I had chosen. I had included like short descriptions from each question that was issued of the brief to each of the designs, but I will be discussing it with the design right in front of me, so it'll be easier to explain. As I see here with the elements of designs that have been chosen here, I would have to say is line, color, shape, space, typography, and texture, and emphasis and balance. I would say so because around, if you see in the infographic, there's a frame. And how this frame puts together the infographic in place and makes the structure neat, so it makes reading easier for possible viewers and so forth. I had noticed that the designers of this infographic had used bright colors as well as interesting illustrations and shapes, thus including as well interesting typography that links to the brand itself, such as the brand Nando's is known for hot food, and so the lettering is kind of linking to chilies and so forth. The colors represent its basis on where the brand comes from, such as South Africa, and known for its bright colors resembling different chili colors, and so forth. In terms of texture, you can see the infographic is basically printed on or designed in a way that it looks like it's a vintage poster and so forth, as well as how some illustrations create emphasis on how their size and scale is put out, but as well as how everything is balanced and put neatly one on top of each other, and how the information is in line on top of each other. This thus gives a more easier way for people to understand. Using bright colors makes it more, gives the infographic attention and so forth. And basically by emplacing all these elements create balance and harmony, so everything is easy and neat for the viewer. How the designer has attempted to create visual hierarchy by basically placing emphasis on illustrations, making the scale bigger or smaller, kind of, I would say, placing the importance of each information. If I would see here, if I was the viewer looking at this directly for the first time, my emphasis will be and look will be straight at the plate here, because it's the biggest illustration and it has the biggest typography and the information is much clearer. So you would have already a basis of idea what this infographic would be about. And then what this infographic is about lunchtime in South Africa. And how the infographic is structured gives a kind of understanding of how the visual hierarchy is layered in terms of line and shape, gives it an understanding of how things are laid on top of each other, showing its importance and how the reader will look down on its levels it's being represented here. Thus, with these colors and so forth, grabs the consumer or viewer's attention, creating attention, awareness, and so forth, and perception, as a lot of food companies associate bright colors with food. As well as, in my opinion, I believe that this visual hierarchy is satisfied. It's quite visually appealing. Everything's put together well. I can visually see things clearly, and my attention is captured really nicely with how all the design elements are put together in this visual hierarchy of how they are laid out in a certain way to make it easier for viewers to see. To be honest, I would not change anything about this visual hierarchy. I think it's perfect. I think it goes well. I would, though, at least use a little bit, maybe less text, because I feel like sometimes the text in this infographic can be a little bit of distraction. So this is one. Some of the images I use here is actually my own images based on travels in the past, pre-COVID. So basically the second one is my print design. And yet again, I have the information laid out here, but then I'll just discuss it here with the print design in front of me. So basically what I see here in terms of elements of design is that this print is a great example of visual hierarchy, and the design elements have been used in this is color, line, space, shape, typography, texture, balance, and emphasis. We can see that the red is very bright and the colors are really bright in this print, as it shows a level of importance here, so it can attract the consumer. Having the red shape here in the middle with the chili is in bright colors, while the rest of the page is plain white. Shows the importance of what the designer was aiming to do to attract the consumer. Well, in terms of typography, yet again, it's linking with the Nando's typical typography, linking to how it resembles a chili while it's known for its brand, and having shape as well play on this and creating balance throughout the whole advertisement. Here, space creates a level of attraction in terms how there's a space around where the typography and information is centered. There's a space around it, just showing that it can make a surrounding around the attraction of the person, which is the red space with the slogan that goes on. And as well as they have used a textured background here, yet to emphasis on like an old vintage style that it's trying to aim on its aesthetic and so forth from Nando's and what they represent, and as well as how everything is balanced and emphasized. The lettering's emphasized, the colors are bright and emphasized, and everything's emphasized besides the logo. But how everything is emphasized is trying to attract the consumer, is making the attention of the viewer to go directly to the slogan and what they are trying to say, then going down to seeing, oh, it's of Nando's. I think the designer has created visual hierarchy in terms of how they've placed all the emphasis at the top, with the colors and so forth being emphasized and made bright, and typography made big, grabbing the attention's view and slowly looking at it and slowly going down, seeing that it's part of Nando's. I do feel like the designer has made attention, it grabs attention perception, as red again has been linked a lot to foods, and how in this case the bright colors are linked to chilies and other certain types of food that Nando's represents. And just with how they laid it out all together is how the background is plain, how the information they want to bring out is put on emphasis with the typography and bright colors. I do believe that this hierarchy is a good example and it has achieved satisfactory And I think out of all the ones I'm representing, this has to be the best example. What I could make better, to be honest, I wouldn't change anything. I think this is a perfect example, like I just said. And yeah. So this is the information. I just shortened. So this is my wayfinding infographic, and this is the information below it, but I'll be yet again placing here so I can just talk about it. So the design elements I've seen here are color, line, shape, space, emphasis, balance, and typography. So basically, in terms of how everything is laid out here, I would mostly say that how the designer wanted to make this was have the information in the middle with creating sense of attraction and a visual hierarchy in terms of the colors used and design elements placed in the middle. Just as we saw the advertisements in the previous infographic and information design, how they basically made the framing around it plain, like here the plain blue sea, but then have the information highlighted with different keys in this case and placed with different colors and so forth to make it seem that this map is talking about something. They don't, like, the consumer or viewer will see it as, oh, this is a map indicating of something in terms of, you can see by the colors and typography shown here. But this map is actually showing how far it takes from a bishop to its church to the nearest Nando's in England. And so basically this is what the designer is aiming to show, how the colors are situated here are bright, attracting the viewer to go directly to see what is this information design all about. And it's as casual Nando's is known for their humorous advertising. This is what its aim is for. And yes, this information design does carry out attention and perception, as the colors still resemble food and bright colors of food, chili as food is really resembled to red and so forth, and how it grabs attention with the bright colors and how they make emphasis on the different cities and parts of England's names. And yeah, I do feel like this is a satisfactory visual hierarchy, but I don't think to the extent to like the previous two examples I had shown. I do feel like it could be a bit more balanced and in place in a way that they can make sense of adding imagery. And this comes to when how I would say I would change it. And basically I would say add maybe imagery to give the visual to give the outsider or consumer an understanding of what maybe this map could look like at first glance, because you just see a map here in the middle and don't understand what's necessarily going on, but the bright colors and shapes do attract the consumer into seeing what is this all about, and how everything is centered around the blue plane and making that the focal points in which the eyes of the viewer turn to. But I would change in some things and add maybe little illustrations and so forth of maybe a little bishop and churches and so, to give a clear understanding. Because if we see here, we just see a chili in the corner and a slogan of saying how far is the bishop from Nando's, but so forth. I just wanted it to have more clear understanding, but the attention is grabbed here with certain design elements used in this information design. So yes, and basically I just added the image reference I've used for my presentation design. But yes, thank you very much.